Welcome, villagers, to the village hidden in the stories. I'm your guide, All Kage, the creator and author behind all the what-if stories you see on this channel, powered by your amazing suggestions. Every story you hear is written, edited, and produced by me, so if you're ever wondering who's behind the magic, it's me. I hope you enjoy today's video. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell icon to stay updated, like the video, and don't forget to drop your what-if ideas in the comments. Today's story is What If Naruto Was in the Owl House, Part 7. This is the second to last part. It focuses on the ship of our story, and builds up a lot for the story. Part 8 is currently being worked on, and it will be the last part of Season 1. I'm making Part 8 with more care than the other parts, so it might take longer to come out as it is a finale. Before we dive in, it's shout-out time. Huge thanks to everyone who comments and supports the channel, keep them coming, and a special shout-out to my Shinobi Patreon member, Francios Lyman. Your support truly means a lot. If you'd like to support the channel, get ad-free videos, early access to transcripts, and more, the Patreon link is in the description. Also, don't forget to join our Discord village. It's the perfect place to hang out, discuss stories, share ideas, and get updates faster. The link is in the description. Now, without further ado, let's jump into this what if. Part 7, Grom Coming Royals. Naruto yawned from his spot inside Luz's hood. The only reason he hadn't dozed off yet was because trouble always seemed to arrive right after things got quiet. It had been an on and off cycle of danger lately, and this felt like the point where something was bound to happen, so he stayed alert. Luz walked through the halls of Hexside beside Willow and Gus, stopping at the demonic lockers to drop off most of her books. Hexside looked different today. Not just in atmosphere, there was this strange mix of tension and excitement in the air, but in the decorations themselves. The massive open atrium between the levels was filled with bright yellow abomination balloons floating along the floors and ceiling. More balloons hung from the railings, alongside yellow banners and streamers lining the halls and classrooms. Definitely more festive than usual, Naruto thought. Luz noticed it too. Something's different today. She stared up at the decorations while putting her last book away. Then she smirked. Did everyone get haircuts? Willow gasped, that's right, I almost forgot. Her smile brightened. You and Naruto have never been to the social event of the season. Gus flourished his hand dramatically. Welcome to your first. He didn't get to finish. Two masked nurses rushed past them with a stretcher, swarming a beast-keeping student and immediately strapping him down. Come with us immediately, one of them announced. Your disease, it's advancing. Is there a cure, doc? The boy asked dramatically. Only one, the nurse declared, rolling him toward another nervous-looking student. Finding the perfect date to Grom. Naruto blinked, then tuned the rest out. Corny, clearly scripted, and way too theatrical for him to care, but the name stuck in his head. Grom. He frowned thoughtfully, then glanced away. Probably a school dance. He'd be useless at that anyway. Still, the word tugged at something in the back of his mind. Luz gasped, snapping him out of his thoughts. Hexside has a weird version of prom, she asked excitedly. At my old school I got kicked out of the last dance for not following dress code. But maybe here I can finally be your Grom Queen. The joke didn't land. The moment she said Grom Queen, both Willow and Gus winced. That's not something people really sign up for, Willow said with an awkward frown. Amity suddenly rounded the corner, and walked straight into Luz. Her books spilled everywhere as she hit the floor. Watch where you're, she started, but paused when she realized who she'd bumped into. Oh hey, Luz, her voice softened. Naruto, sorry. Willow and Gus waved. Naruto hopped from Luz's hood, shifting into human form and helping Amity up. No problem, Luz smiled, already gathering books. Once everything was returned to Amity's arms, Naruto shoved his hands in his pockets. So what's the rush? I just have a lot on my mind, Amity muttered, not meeting his eyes. Before anything else could be said, the speakers screeched to life. Students froze. Then Principal Bump's voice boomed proudly, "Attention Hexside students, this year, I have the privilege of bestowing our highest Grom honor to Amity Blight, our Grom Queen." Every head in the hall turned to Amity. She shrank. The whispers started, respect, mixed with pity. If this was just a normal dance, people wouldn't sound terrified. Naruto frowned, he really needed to start paying attention in meetings. Luz didn't hesitate. She cheered loudly. "That's right, Amity, get it, Queen." Everyone stared at her. By the time she raised her hand for a high five, Amity was already gone. "Don't leave me, Hanjin," Luz called after her. Willow gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "You might want to give her space. Being Grom Queen is a tough job, even for Amity." Naruto glanced between them, curiosity sharpening. "So, what exactly does a Grom Royal do?" "I'd like to know too," Luz added. "If it freaks Amity out, I feel like I'm missing something." Willow sighed as Gus formed an illusion circle beside her. "Grom," Willow began quietly, "is short for Grometheus, the Fear-bringer. It lives under the school, and it's the worst monster Hexside has to deal with." Gus's illusion formed a tapestry of the Isles before the school existed. "It belonged to one of our rival schools, a curse meant to keep Hexside from ever being built." Black sludge spread across the illusion like a living shadow. "But a group of soon-to-be Hexside students defeated it before the school even existed," Gus continued, the image shifting to a young Principal Bump sealing the beast. "Which is where the whole built on the blood and ashes of our enemies rumor started." The illusion faded. "And ever since then," Willow continued, shuddering, "Grom wakes up every year and tries to escape. Principal Bump throws a party and calls it tradition. The worst part," Gus added, "is that it can read minds. It turns into your worst fear, and you have to fight it." And suddenly Naruto remembered. Years ago, while studying shapeshifters for his own transformations, he'd read about something like this, a creature that became fear itself. A monster that should never be allowed to roam free. Luz swallowed, no wonder she ran off. Who wants to see their worst fear standing right in front of them, and then fight it? That's like kicking a puppy. Well, Willow hesitated. Gus cut in, "It's either she beats it or the entire Boiling Isles has to face a shape-shifting fear demon that isn't lazy like Naruto." Naruto raised an eyebrow but stayed quiet. "Isn't there something we can do?" Luz asked. "If someone talked to Bump, maybe someone else could take her place." Willow shook her head, "It's tradition that whoever is chosen to be Grom Queen or King faces Grom." She paused, then her expression shifted thoughtfully. "But, there was one year Bump allowed the Grom Royal to switch." Luz blinked thoughtfully. But Willow took that as the chance to cut back in, already seeing Luz look. "It's complicated," she admitted. "There was a case where someone volunteered to take a Grom Royal's place, yeah. But it isn't like swapping chores. You're literally stepping in to fight that capitalizes on your worst fears. Principal Bump doesn't usually allow it unless the volunteer is absolutely determined." Gus added, "And also not, dumb." Luz's eyes lit up anyway. "So if someone steps in, Amity wouldn't have to face her fear?" she asked. "Well, I guess," Willow sighed. "But either way someone is fighting their own fear publicly. That's usually the worst part for people. Everyone watching your greatest weakness, it's humiliating depending on what it is, and people don't usually forget that sort of thing." Luz's face softened, gaze drifting down the hall in the direction Amity ran. She could picture it. Amity, strong and composed on the outside, shaking on the inside. Luz clenched her fists. "Well," she muttered. "No one should have to go through that alone, in front of the whole school." Willow gave a tiny nod. Yeah, that's why people dread being chosen. There was a silence. Naruto could see the decision forming in Luza's face before she even spoke. Her eyes lit with stubborn warmth. Then I'll switch with her. Willow's eyes widened. Gus choked on his own breath. Naruto stiffened. Luz, no seriously, Luz continued, already talking herself into it. If facing the fear is what matters, someone just needs to stand up and do it. I've fought monsters, I've fought coven guards, and I've faced, a lot of embarrassing moments already. How bad could it be? She tried to laugh, it didn't land. Naruto stepped forward. Don't, he said sharply. Luz blinked at him. He rarely ever snapped like that anymore. Okay, she tried lightly. What's with the tone? Naruto exhaled slowly through his nose, gaze narrowing. It's not just a monster, he said. It turns into your fear. The worst thing your mind can make, and you don't get to choose how ready you are for that. Luza's smile faltered. He continued, voice lower now, serious, firm. You might be able to know what fear it'll show you, but not how, not the intensity. You can't rehearse it, and once you see it, you don't go back to not seeing it. Willow swallowed, even Gus sobered up. Luz hugged her own arm subconsciously, but her stubborn spark didn't die. But Amity shouldn't have to go through it either, she argued softly. If she ran away just from the announcement, she must be terrified. And I'm not just gonna stand there and let her suffer because everyone else decided tradition matters more than her feelings. Naruto clenched his jaw. He didn't disagree. He hated seeing people forced to handle burdens like that. And deep down, he knew exactly why Grom bothered him too. The idea of seeing his own fear, dragged out of his chest, made something cold coil in his stomach. He knew exactly what it would show him, and that scared him more than he'd ever admit out loud. He lifted his gaze again. Just running in blind doesn't help. He said, calmer now but firm. I'll talk to Bump first, see if there's another way. A guard role, a backup. Something that supports her without throwing yourself under something you don't understand. Luz opened her mouth to argue. He beat her to it. I'm serious, he said quietly. Once you volunteer for something like this, you don't get to take it back. Just, wait, let me find out more before you do anything stupid. She paused. Her shoulders dropped. Okay, she sighed. Naruto studied her face. Something about the way she said it felt too agreeable. But he let out a breath anyway. Good, he muttered. Then I'll handle it. He shoved his hands back into his pockets. Turned, and headed down the hall. Willow watched him go. Gus let out a shaky breath. Silence lingered a second. Then Luz puffed her cheeks out, and her determined smile slowly returned. Yeah no, she whispered to herself. I'm totally still doing it. Willow pinched the bridge of her nose. Oh Titan. Gus squeaked. And somewhere down the hall, Naruto kept walking, unaware Luz had already decided to jump headfirst off the cliff he was desperately trying to build a railing around. The gym looked livelier, just like the rest of Hex Side. Streamers in warm yellows stretched from beam to beam, a weird demon shell spun slowly near the ceiling, throwing fractured light across half-set tables. Luz wandered through it, eyes wide because, wow, Hex Side really committed to the dramatic. She stopped when she noticed the tall black pedestal near center court. One giant red button. Her brain did the Luz thing. I gotta know. She pressed it. The floor rumbled. The court split open, the center dropping with a grinding echo. Two walls of ancient weapons surged up from hidden slots in the floor, each blade and staff humming faintly with faded magic. The bleachers stayed intact, but the heart of the gym became a dark pit, a sloping tunnel descending into pitch black. Something moved down there. Only barely, but it was enough. Luz swallowed. So that was Grom. She didn't back away. But she also didn't lean closer. She just stood there, thoughtful in a way she didn't usually let herself be. A quiet voice broke the silence. You shouldn't be in here. Luz turned fast. Amity, hey, surprise? Amity looked tired, not devastated, not trembling. Just, holding herself together a little too tightly. Her eyes flicked past Luz to the opened pit, then to the weapons. She moved without speaking, pressed the button. The gym swallowed everything again like nothing happened. Silence settled. Sorry, Amity muttered finally, not quite looking at her. Just running off earlier. I kinda spiraled. It's okay, Luz said gently. Really, I figured, after the fact. It must be a lot. Amity let out a breath she'd clearly been keeping. Yeah, it is. Her eyes drifted back to where the pit had been. These were used before, she said quietly. Every Grom Royal, every year. They enchanted the weapons with magic meant to suppress curses, nightmares, whatever Grom really is. And every year, someone still barely makes it out okay. That wasn't rehearsed, that wasn't pride, that was honesty. She didn't say her fear, she didn't say she didn't want to do it, she didn't say she was terrified. But Luz could hear it anyway. You don't have to say that you're afraid, Luz said softly, I just want to know if you are okay. Amity's jaw tightened. Like she wanted to snap. But didn't. I don't know, she admitted instead. And I hate not knowing. That was as close to vulnerable as she let herself go. Luz nodded, thoughtful for a beat. Then, so, there's this switching thing Willow mentioned. Amity groaned, Luz, no, listen. Just, listen. Luz held up her hands. The school wants you to do something scary because you were chosen to be Grom Queen. Because it's tradition. But, that doesn't mean you absolutely have to fight a fear monster because you were told to. Amity stared at her, not with softness. With confusion, with frustration, with relief leaking in around the edges. That's kinda exactly what it means, Luz. Amity said, more defensive than angry. People get hurt if it's handled wrong, I can't just let someone reckless take over, Luz grinned awkwardly. Yeah, I figured you'd say that. A tiny noise escaped Amity that might have been a laugh, maybe, kind of. I'm serious, Luz continued. I assumed you were scared when you ran off. So if you want to do this, I'll just back you, all the way, 100%. But if you don't, I'll be glad to switch with you. I don't want you to stand in front of a nightmare just because you think you're supposed to. Amity looked at her for a long moment. She didn't agree, she didn't refuse, she just stood there, processing. I'll think about it. She finally said. That's the best you're getting. Luz smiled, then I'll take it. That was when the doors opened. A fox trotted in, tail flicking in irritation. He shifted back into Naruto halfway through the walk like he couldn't be bothered to go the full length. There you two are, he said, voice tired. I talked to Bump, he's not budging. Says Grom needs a champion, says no loopholes, says, whatever, you get it. He stopped, really looking at them. Luz scratched her cheek, funny story actually. I kinda volunteered. Amity shot her a look. Strongly volunteered, Luz corrected. Silence. Naruto stared at her, then at Amity, then back. He exhaled slowly. I told you not to, he said plainly, no anger, no lecture. Just weary, honesty. I meant it. Luz didn't joke back this time, I know. He stood there another second. You could see it, he wanted to argue, he wanted to drag her out of here, he wanted to say no. But he didn't. Because he respected her, because he respected Amity. Because he knew forcing control wasn't protection. Then train, he muttered instead. Whoever ends up in that fight needs to be ready. That was as close to approval as he was willing to give. He turned, body already shifting back into a fox as he walked. He paused only once at the door. Didn't look back. "Don't make me regret not stopping you," he said quietly. Then he left. Time skip. Naruto lay stretched across the owl house roof, paws tucked under his chin, watching the sun dip toward the horizon. Orange light washed over the shingles and across his fur, warm but not comforting. He'd already decided, he wasn't going to Grom. Not while he didn't even know what he felt anymore. Not while Luz and Amity were gearing up to face something that dug into your deepest fears. He exhaled slowly, tiles shifted behind him. He didn't bother looking until Ida's boots stopped beside him. When he finally turned, she was standing there in a ridiculously sharp brown suit that hung loose in the shoulders, like it was trying to swallow her. He blinked. "You look like you mugged a funeral." Ida brushed imaginary dust from her sleeve. "Grom chaperone duty, gotta look professional when the children are emotionally traumatized in front of a crowd." She smirked. "Can't wait to see which poor sap gets served up this year." Naruto groaned, and turned his face back toward the sky. Ida frowned. "What was that for?" "Maybe ask your student what she thinks about throwing herself at Grom," he muttered. Ida stopped. "They picked Luz, that's new. Didn't think anyone even knew she existed yet." Naruto rolled onto his back and glared at the clouds. "They didn't pick her, she's taking Amity's place, probably. Knowing Luz, it's not decided." Ida went quiet a second, then clicked her tongue. Nope, absolutely not, you're going. She is not ready for a mind-eating nightmare sludge beast. Do you know how annoying it is saving that kid from catastrophes every 2 weeks? Naruto's tail flicked. 1. I'm not going. 2. Luz has saved you from a curse, a stalker, the slither beast, and like 5 other things I'm too tired to list. Ida squinted. "Who kicked you in the gut and shipped you home today?" "I'm fine," he muttered. We're not doing this dance again." Ida crossed her arms. "If this is about that spooky doom premonition you've been whining about, then take a breath, go to the party, and, it's not the Isles thing." He cut in. "Though I still feel something's coming." He hesitated. "This is different." Ida watched him a moment, then her smirk crept back. "Is this about your crush on Luz and that green-haired honor student?" Naruto jerked upright into human form. "How do you?" "I raised you since you were 10, kid," she snorted. "It's painfully obvious." He groaned and slumped back into fox form, tail wrapping around him. "So," she said gently, "is it about them?" Naruto's voice was small. "I don't know, Ida, I really don't." He swallowed. "Any time I try to keep the people I care about out of danger, it blows up anyway. I'm tired of caring and," he stopped. "Losing them," Ida finished softly. He buried his face into his tail. Silence settled. "It still hurts when I think about Jiraiya," he whispered. "And this feeling, this sense that something bad's coming, it makes every bad situation feel worse, makes me," he didn't finish, but Ida heard it anyway. "Scared. So I don't know if I should back Luz up, or jump in front. Or respect her and Amity and, just let it happen." He breathed out slowly. "I don't know if I'm supposed to ask Amity to stop Luz, which means Amity faces Grom alone. I don't know if I should stop both of them." He stared at the skyline. "I respect Luz because she does the impossible. And Amity, because she thinks before she leaps. So how do I pick? Or hide, or," he stopped himself. Ida's smile widened, sharp and fond. "So this isn't just fear. This is you being hopelessly tangled up in your own feelings." He glared weakly. "Don't look at me like that. Oh come on Kit, you avoided this stuff your whole life. Then the universe drops 2 crushes on you, I'm allowed to enjoy this." He groaned loudly. She laughed and flicked his ear. Listen, I can tell you think you have to choose right now. Don't I? Nope, she leaned back on her hands. You're overthinking it. Let it flow. Stop trying to label it, fix it, control it. Let the feelings just be. When it's time to choose, you'll know. Until then, don't break yourself. He looked at her. And about Grom, she continued. Do what you always do. Which is? Adapt. Her grin softened. You've never been the fox who fits the plan, don't start now. She stood, stretching. Anyway, I gotta get King into his announcer cape. If you do show up, I left you a suit in the kitchen. She walked away across the tiles. Naruto stared after her. Then he looked back at the sky. And for the first time since he got home he didn't feel stuck. Let it flow, huh? Morning light slipped through the little window in Luz's bedroom, closet bedroom. Whatever it was, Naruto padded into it in his fox form, paws quiet on the floorboards as he looked around. He'd never been in here before. Relics stacked on shelves, random junk that was probably magical. A crumpled sleeping bag in the middle of it all. It was messy, loud, and a little ridiculous. Yeah, it was Luz's room all right. Ida's words from last night nudged his mind over and over. He exhaled through his nose and kept moving. Luz stood at the mirror with serious concentration, holding up two outfits to her chest, a sleek black dress in one hand, and an otter onesie in the other. He had no words. Before he could comment, her phone buzzed. Luz's shoulders instantly tensed. She lowered the outfits, reached for her phone, and Naruto crept closer, hopping up silently onto the back of a chair. A text from Camila. Pictures, hearts, food, love, home. Luz forced a smile into the reply, then stared at the screen a moment longer than she probably meant to, the smile fading. Naruto shook his head and hopped lightly onto her shoulder. I know you're not ready for that conversation yet, he said quietly, but the longer the lie goes on, the harder it's gonna be to get out of. Luz yelped, then relaxed when she saw him. Her eyes dropped, guilt flickering, but before she could say anything he nudged her cheek with his muzzle. A small smile finally tugged at her lips. Her hand came up and scratched behind his ear. He didn't fight it this time, didn't grumble or pretend to hate it. He just leaned into it. I thought you were mad at me, she admitted softly. About the whole, taking Amity's place thing. Naruto rolled his eyes. I needed to think, trust me, I still hate the whole, almost dying for tradition part. If I could lock Grom in the basement and call it a day, I would. He sighed. But I know you're not backing down. And, I respect that. So instead of sulking, I'll help you both. Luz brightened, really? Yeah, he muttered. You were planning to train today, right? Yup, just waiting for, Luz, you have a guest. Hootie's face burst through the window like a nightmare noodle, stretching right past Luz and nearly smushing Naruto. Naruto growled and shoved his face away. Personal space, you freakin' hose. Hootie recoiled with a wounded gasp and retreated. The door opened. Amity, Luz grinned. Amity stormed in, plucking feathers out of her hair with murderous intent. If that bird tube ever touches me again, this house won't have a front door. She finally looked up, first at Luz, then at Naruto. So, why are you here? She asked carefully. I thought you were against the switch. I still am, kind of, Naruto answered honestly. But you're both stubborn and smart. So I'm backing you up instead of standing in your way. Amity blinked. Then she smiled. Good. She turned to Luz, posture straightening, slipping back into determined student mode. Ready to train? Luz tossed the outfits aside like they'd never existed and puffed up confidently. Oh yeah, fearless Luz time. There was absolutely nothing fearless about the nervous laugh that followed. Both of them snorted anyway. Naruto hopped off her shoulder, tails flicking. "Alright then," he said, heading for the door. "Let's make sure Grom's the one who should be scared." Training didn't start with spells or shouting. It started with rhythm. Naruto had already been working with Luz for days, nudging her toward smarter glyph use, pushing her to think sideways, to adapt in motion instead of panicking. Her fighting style was messy, instinctive, and built entirely on impulse. But it worked. It was reckless in the way a fox could respect, fast, sneaky, clever. Easy to build on once someone guided it. Amity handled the structure, Naruto handled the chaos. Between the two of them, Luz was learning how to move between both. They trained until the sun dipped low, washing the sky in burning gold. When they finally called a break, the three of them ended up behind the owl house, staying just far enough away that Hooty couldn't wiggle his way into the conversation. Naruto lay stretched across the rough stone, tail lazily flicking. Luz and Amity sat near the cliff's edge beside him, legs dangling over the drop, staring out as the horizon swallowed the last of the light. For a while, there was nothing but wind and breathing. Luz was the one who broke it. "So do you guys think that's gonna be enough to beat Grom?" Amity's sigh left her chest like a weight. "I honestly don't know. Maybe training physically was the wrong approach. But we don't have time to rethink it now, and the more I think about what facing Grom really means, the more I think you shouldn't be the one doing it." Luz snapped upright. "What? But you said we'd switch." "I said maybe," Amity's corrected softly. "Grom isn't just some monster to take down. It's a symbol, it's responsibility. It's about protecting Hexside, protecting the Isles. It's scary, but important." She hesitated, eyes dropping to the shadows below the cliff. "And I don't just want Grom defeated, I want it gone, for good." That stunned them both. Naruto's ears twitched, interest finally pulling him upright. "So we're back to square one," he muttered. "Winning is one thing. Completely tearing down the curse, that's another story." Luz pouted, he flicked his tail and added dryly, "No offense." Amity nodded faintly, "It's the only way to stop this cycle. To stop kids from being shoved face first into their worst fears because tradition says so. As long as Grom stays, it's always just going to be about surviving the fight." Silence settled again, this time heavier. "Okay," Luz finally breathed. "So what do we do? I might be able to beat it, but ending it? Not a solo mission, I can't do that on my own." "That's why I should face it," Amity said quietly. Like Bump planned. Naruto stood, stretching like a cat that was absolutely done with everyone's terrible decisions. "That goes against everything we just agreed on. If anything, neither of you should be letting your fears run wild unless you're standing there together." Luz gasped like a light bulb went off. "That's it." Both Fox and Witch turned toward her. From what Willow said about the first time Hexside ever beat Grom, students fought it together. Has anyone ever tried that again? No, Amity admitted. Brows furrowed. But I don't, she stopped. Because it made sense. 3 fears, 3 different minds. Grom couldn't drown all of them the same way. If they shared the weight, its advantage shrank. Naruto broke the thoughtful silence. Okay, strategy-wise, great. Emotionally, teamwork, friendship, power, sure. But how do we actually kill a regenerating nightmare blob? Amity straightened a bit, voice steadying as she explained, Grom is shadow matter. It regenerates constantly, but it does have a limit. If something can destroy it faster than it reforms, we can erase it. 3 seconds passed. Naruto squinted suspiciously. No, Luz already saw where it was going. Wait. She grinned. Naruto, you literally eat demons all the time. He gagged dramatically. I am not swallowing sentient nightmare sludge that probably tastes like abomination garbage. Please, Luz leaned closer, big eyes, trembling lip. Devastating weaponized cuteness. He tried to hold, really, he did. She leaned closer again. Amity was trying not to laugh. He cracked. Fine, but if we find another plan, we do that instead. Luz hooped in triumph. Amity snorted. Naruto pretended he wasn't secretly fond of both reactions. Amity's voice was finally calm again. Then it settled, but we'll need a plan. The gym was transformed. 2 hours after training, Hexide's once echoing court was dimmed into something caught between a festival and a nightmare stage. Soft purple lanterns hung from the rafters, decorations floating lazily through the air, and snack tables were clustered generously along the walls, glowing slightly with magic runes to keep the food fresh. The stands were pulled out, a slow tide of students filtering in and out, some whispering nervously, others laughing like this was just another school event instead of a fight with fear itself. Most stayed clustered on the dance floor in small circles, waiting, the tension building with every second. Naruto tugged at his tie again. He stood partway up the bleachers, feeling like this suit was attacking him worse than any monster possibly could. He'd thought sure, a suit sounds fine when Ida mentioned it yesterday. That confidence evaporated the moment he'd actually seen the thing waiting on the kitchen table. He would have stayed in his fox form if he could have. Just throw a tie around his neck and call it a day. That felt more like him. Comfortable, natural. But, something about tonight didn't feel like the right time for that. His human form had been altered just enough to look strange to him. His normally wild blonde hair had been straightened back, shoulder-length locks tied into a spiky ponytail while the rest was slicked neatly behind his ears. And speaking of ears, his usual fox pair had vanished entirely. Instead, 2 sharper, witch-like ears rested at the sides of his head. He'd technically always had them. Just hidden under chaotic hair. Keeping both sets felt weird for a party. This felt slightly less weird. His eyes remained their familiar crimson, though softer, less feral. The whisker marks on his cheeks still framed his face, but lighter, like even they had been forced to behave. And then there was the suit. Black and red tux, with a red button-up shirt underneath. Black pants, black tie, his same sandal-style boots, because even Ida couldn't pry those away from him. 2 flowers rested in his chest pocket, a soft yellow and deep purple rose willow had made for him earlier, magic humming faintly through their petals. He missed his hoodie, so much. He sighed and glanced at Ida beside him in the bleachers. She was wearing the same suit she'd proudly shown off the night before. Lounging like this was entertainment instead of possible chaos. You think this is too much, he muttered. Ida smirked, hands behind her head. Kid, I stole that suit for you, remember, it's perfect. Naruto grumbled anyway and tugged the tie again. She gave him a sideways look, sharp grin forming. Ah, what's wrong? Wanting to look extra sharp for your girls? He leveled the flattest stare he could manage at her. She burst out laughing. Since Luz got here, your buttons have never been easier to push. He ignored that completely, smoothing his hair back instead. Where's King? Ida lazily pointed toward the main stage. Gus, dressed in a sharp blue and white tux, stood beside King, who wore only a red tie, chest puffed out but eyes slightly wide. They're hosting, she said casually. Naruto raised a brow. What about his whole stage fright thing? He'll figure it out, or he won't, Ida shrugged. Either way, it'll be funny. Naruto shook his head. I'm gonna go send Luz off. That made Ida's brow lift. Send her off, don't tell me you forgot what I said yesterday. Adapt, don't let my other kid do something stupid. He chuckled. Relax, you don't gotta save anyone tonight. We've got a plan, but Luz still wants to switch with Amity. That plan had taken a lot of arguing, but the best way to pull off a coordinated strike was to let Grom lock onto one target first. Then when it stabilized, the 3 of them would overwhelm it together. He waved her off and headed down the bleachers. Spotlights suddenly burst to life on the stage, magic color filters flooding the center of the gym. Gus took a confident step forward, holding his microphone tightly, grin huge. "Ladies, gentlemen, and assorted demons," Gus' voice boomed, bright and hyped, filling every inch of the room with energy. "It's almost time for our main Grom event. Please, take a seat, and be aware that the first 3 rows are designated splash zones." Students laughed, one witch in the front row dramatically put on a raincoat and popped open an umbrella. The cheering doubled. Gus practically vibrated with enthusiasm. "I see we've got Principal Bump in the house. Now sir, I hope you won't throw us in detention because, we're going to raise the roof." A spotlight hit Principal Bump in the stands. He grinned and raised his hands, mimicking the motion. The gym roared. Right beside Gus, King visibly swallowed, voice cracking once before he forced himself to speak. "Why yeah, and if anyone screams in terror, that's completely normal. Totally expected, definitely not me," King laughed nervously. Gus clapped him on the back encouragingly. "Confidence, my co-host, confidence. I'm confident I'm going to pass out," King muttered through clenched teeth, then quickly raised his arms like nothing was wrong. "Let's grom this thing." Naruto slipped out through the side doors of the gym. The hallway outside was quieter, dimmer, heavier somehow. He let out a breath. "You guys here?" He scanned left, right, then froze. Heat slammed into his face so fast he thought he'd been hit. His entire face flushed crimson. They stood near the lockers. Amity had just finished adjusting Luz's tie. Both turned when he spoke. That wasn't why he was blushing. Amity, her usual sharp ponytail remained, but the rest of her hair now fell to her shoulders, sleek and elegant, catching light with every tiny movement. Her roots were fully green now, color flawless and vibrant. Her dress flowed from dark shadow into deep pink. The upper fabric hugging her shoulders and collar with perfect precision, like something crafted to look powerful and fragile at once. Black heels, dark makeup, subtle jewelry, controlled, confident, stunning. Luz, her hair slicked back, revealing all of her face, fierce and glowing. Black earrings, a half-tux, half-skirt outfit with purple highlights threading through the fabric like lightning. Big boots, bold, chaotic, brilliant. "You both look good," Naruto blurted, then, quieter, "really good." He had to look away, his blush was not dying anytime soon. They approached him, eyes immediately locking onto his suit. "You clean up, surprisingly well," Amity admitted. "Whoa," Luz grinned, circling him once like she was inspecting a magical artifact. "Look at you, fancy fox boy." Amity flicked his crooked tie and sighed, "Of course you didn't do this right." He spluttered but didn't resist as she fixed it, fingers precise and gentle. Meanwhile Luz reached up and started messing with his hair, searching. "Where'd your fox ears go? Hey, I liked those." He quickly grabbed both their wrists and pulled away, flustered. "Focus." Amity exhaled, nodding, though uncertainty crept into her expression. "I still don't know if I'm ready to face it." "No one is," Naruto said simply. "But that's not what we're doing, we're sticking to the plan." Luz nodded. "Yeah, I'm just glad I'm doing this with you guys." That stopped him. He thought about that for a moment, everything they'd gone through already. Everything ahead. "Yeah," he said softly. "Me too." His chest felt weirdly warm. Amity didn't respond, she just looked between them, then away, silently wrestling with something she didn't have words for. Inside the gym, Gus' voice echoed loud enough to reach them. "Now, introducing our Grom Queen, you know her, you love her, you've at least heard of her, Luz, the human." The crowd exploded. The spotlight appeared at the doorway. Luz inhaled, squared her shoulders, "Wish me luck." Naruto nodded. "Remember the signal, we'll be right behind you." She smiled, confident, terrified, brave, then stepped forward into the light. And the gym swallowed her. The weapon racks rose up on either side of Luz as the gym floor splits open. Chains rattle, metal scrapes, gears yawning open to show the stone arena below. Torches flickered along cracked walls. Unlike before, the shadows didn't swallow everything. Luz could see the dungeon beneath Hexside stretching out like some twisted medieval coliseum. Luz grabbed a flail before slapping an ice glyph on the head of it. She took one deep breath and began marching in. Black sludge already began to ooze from corners. Crawling, dripping, like it was watching Luz closely, just before it began to gather. Pulsing, growing, thinking. Luz scoffed, forcing confidence into her voice. "You're not so scary," the shadows reacted. They churned violently, molding into dozens of cats. Except their bodies are wrong. Too long, bending backward, faces, human. Too human. Eyes pleaded, mouths muttered. "Luz, help me," the layered and distorted voices came. "I'm a man, make me human again." Ugh, so weird, Luz shuddered. But without a second thought, she swings the flail, slamming it down in front of the group of human cats. The ice glyph on the flail detonated, launching spikes that blast the cat nightmares away. The crowd roars overhead. Gus' voice boomed above the arena once more. "And there she goes, folks, human magic in action. Cold, flashy, and legally distinct from school-approved spell tracks. And now, to my beautifully terrified co-host, King." King gripped the mic hard, before trying to make his voice boom like Gus's. "Right, standing here live where I could possibly faint, I can confidently say, go Luz. Show that thing why you're my minion, I mean, emotional support human." Gus patted him on the head. Back in the arena, the shadows rippled again. This time, a massive glowing phone slams down in front of Luz, the surface filled with comments, insults, jeering laughter. Online jerks, lots of humiliating moment. Luz smirked. She slams a glyph on the ground. Ice rockets upward in a spike, slicing straight through the phone. The illusion shatters into pixelated static before dissolving. Cut to the gym entrance. Naruto leans forward, eyes razor-sharp, body tense even in that uncomfortable suit. "She's holding it together so far." "This is just surface fear," Amity muttered beside him, voice lower. "Grom, hasn't gotten serious yet." Naruto glances sideways at her, sees the tightness in her shoulders. The tiny tremor in her fingers. He says nothing, then looks back to the fight. Luz was moving faster now. Sweating, breathing harder, but still pushing forward, still forcing a grin. A massive claw slams down beside her. Shadow arms stretch from the walls. She dodges, rolls, plants 3 glyphs in rapid bursts, ice lancing outward and shattering twisted shapes into smoke. "Let's finish this," she yells, charging forward. The ground rumbles. The arena goes silent. Something rises behind her, something big enough to make the crowd gasp. A towering shadow beast unfurls, its shape unstable, like every nightmare layered into one writhing mass. Eyes ignite across its body like embers. And then, it shifts, it thinks, it chooses. A silhouette steps out of the shadows. Tall, wild hair, glowing eyes, a shadow too similar to Ida approaches Luz slowly, voice echoing, warped. Some students glance nervously toward the real Ida in the stands. She drags her hands down her face with a groan. The illusion reaches forward, hands phasing over Luz's head, eyes flashing, and then it warps again. Twisting, flattening, becoming a door. The portal door. Luz freezes in confusion. The door creaked open, slowly at first, like a careful breath. Then, a foot stepped out, before the door swung open to reveal Mija, the illusion of Camilla questioned lightly. Luz's breath breaks. Mom, what are you doing here?" The stadium hushed, even the shadows seemed to hold still. The illusion looked around for a moment, before its look hardened. "Luz, ¿dónde estamos?" she said dramatically. What is this terrible place? This isn't the internship. This isn't safe. Have you been here this whole time? And, her gaze drops to the weapon. Is that a weapon? Luz drops the flail instantly. I can explain. The illusion twitches, its tone shifts. Soft sadness turns to sharp betrayal as thick shadow veins crawl up Camilla's form, twisting her into something monstrous, half human, half abomination nightmare, towering over Luz. Have you been lying to me? The roar shakes the arena. Luz froze. Stuck, trembled. Feared. Luz's hands trembled, her breath stuttered, her knees buckled. Naruto's heartbeat spiked. There it was, her real fear. Amity swallowed hard beside him. Naruto turned instantly, breath already leaving his lungs as he opened his mouth. Amity, now. But there was no one beside him. She was already gone. A streak of purple and shadow sprinting down the ramp into the arena, magic already gathering at her fingertips before she even fully understood why she'd moved. Amity was still scared. Still didn't know what Grom would throw at her. Still didn't know if she would be able to stand when it did. But seeing Luz like that, folded in on herself, trembling, shrinking beneath that illusion of her mother, there wasn't room for hesitation. Her fear could wait, Luz couldn't. Down in the arena, Luz hitched breaths through clenched teeth, eyes shaking as she desperately tried to look anywhere except her. She knew it wasn't real. She knew. So why did it feel like it was? Luz, the illusion snapped, voice sharp and jagged with disappointment. Look at your mother when she is talking to you. Her head jerked up against her will. No, her gaze locked, eyes widened. It hurt to look. It hurt worse to imagine looking away. Her mother's face stared down at her, sad, betrayed, hurt in a way Luz had never wanted to see. She didn't even notice the black sludge behind her at first. Didn't notice it stretching, sharpening, becoming a claw. It gleamed in the flickering dungeon light. Her instincts finally screamed. Luz rolled forward at the last second, crashing to the stone and barely scrambling back to her feet before Grom forced the illusion of Camilla back into her face again, towering over her. Stop, Luz gasped. Please, please just stop. Her voice cracked. I didn't mean to hurt you, Mama. I didn't want. Then, Naruto's voice echoed in her memory. Clear, unapologetic, that's a stupid way to go about it. Luz blinked. His words played again in her head, sharper this time. Seriously, I'm not saying you've got to tell her right now. But hiding forever, that'll just eat you alive. Her breathing slowed, just a little, right? Naruto didn't tell her fears didn't matter. Never pretended she could magically not care. He told her the truth, that this wasn't something she could conquer overnight. That it was okay to not be ready yet, but that didn't mean she had to let it break her. This wasn't her mother, this wasn't the day she'd have to face that conversation. And when she did, she'd deal with it then. Not now. Not like this. Her hand steadied on the stone. She pushed herself back onto her feet. Just as something purple slammed into the illusion from the side. Abomination needles rained down in a violent storm, shredding through shadow, tearing Grom Camilla apart, until Luz stumbled forward into open air again. The dungeon returned. The crowd noise rushed back in. Luz sucked in breath like she'd been drowning. Standing beside her now, shoulders squared, magic burning around her fingertips, Amity. You okay? She asked, eyes locked forward, voice steady despite the pounding in her chest. Luz swallowed. Yeah, just, she forced a shaky smile, kind of shell-shocked. But I'm good. Amity nodded once, good enough. Two spell circles flared open in front of her just as the shadows surged again, this time rising taller, thicker, heavier. Luz's eyes widened. What the heck is that? Because what loomed over them now wasn't Luz's fear. It was Amity's, the greater basilisk. Not exactly the same, but twisted, larger, darker, scarred with shadow veins, eyes glowing like coals as it coiled above them and hissed down. Amity's stomach dropped for half a heartbeat. Right. Guess she didn't quite leave that behind. But she didn't hesitate. Two massive abomination hands materialized, slamming down just in time to block its lashing tail. The creature roared, shadows vibrating, before striking again from the right. Amity moved. Spell circle that made a wall. And a second later an impact cracked across the barrier, but didn't break it. Good. Her feet dug in, she shifted the wall forward, turning defense into a ramp, forcing distance while she condensed ice magic in the palm of her hand, light building brighter and brighter. The basilisk lunged, jaws splitting open, shadows dripping like tar. Amity didn't flinch. She sprinted, then leapt. Midair, the basilisk snapped, but missed. A claw swiped through where she'd been a heartbeat earlier, it missed again. Amity twisted midair, magic pulsing brilliant blue, and hurled it. The ice bomb slammed dead center into its chest. And with a loud boom, a storm of white exploded outward, snow, frost, frozen wind engulfing the shadow serpent. Ice crawled across its body, locking muscle and smoke and nightmare in a frozen prison as the arena howled with cheers. Luz laughed breathlessly. That was awesome. But Amity didn't relax, not for a second, her jaw set, too easy, too early, and then, the ice cracked. No, it rotted. Dark smoke ate through the frost from the inside, ripping outward, tearing the storm apart until the dungeon was swallowed not by ice, but by black. A thick, suffocating cloud surged forward, faster than she could react. It swallowed her whole. The crowd vanished, the arena vanished, even Luz vanished. Amity's breath hitched in total darkness. She grit her teeth, shoulders tense, heart pounding. What's going on? Grom didn't roar this time, didn't announce itself, it waited. Letting the silence sink in. Letting her own mind start talking. Letting her fear finally catch up. And Amity realized, this wasn't a monster she could punch. This was her turn. The smoke closed around Amity like a fist. It didn't just obscure the world, it spoke. The whispers crawled inside her ears, but the worst part was how familiar they sounded. Her own voice, echoed and twisted, overlapping like multiple versions of her arguing at once. Without your grades, what are you? You were only special because they said you were. Take away prodigy and there's nothing left worth looking at. The tone shifted, her voice, but tired, disappointed, flat. You're not extraordinary, Amity, just convenient. Her chest tightened, she couldn't see the arena anymore, couldn't see Luz. Couldn't see anything but the blur of shadow around her, tightening like a net. Her hands trembled and even her breathing didn't feel like her own. The title she'd lived her entire life around cracked in front of her and she wasn't fast enough to hold it together. What do you have if you aren't perfect? What are you without it? Nothing. 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 Amity. The voice cut straight through the smoke. Luz. Her voice didn't echo, it didn't distort, it didn't judge, it sounded real. Hey, listen to me, you're not perfect. You mess up, you freak out, you overthink things. You get scared. Luz's voice was firm, rising like she was fighting the smoke itself. And none of that makes you less. It just makes you you. The whispers tried to drown her out, Grom pushed harder. She saw flashes, her parents' expectations. The blight name, the cold eyes of every student who only saw her rank, never her. You don't shine without your title. You don't matter without it. I like you, Luz's voice came again. Softer now. Not because you're top student Amity Blight. Not because you're impressive. Not because you're some big important witch. For a second, the smoke hesitated. I like you because you care, because you try, because even when you're terrified, you're still here helping me. Luz took a breath she didn't realize she was holding. You matter because you're you, that's it, that's enough. Amity's fingers stopped shaking. The fear didn't vanish, it didn't magically dissolve. But it loosened, it stopped feeling like a verdict and more like something she could breathe through. Right. She was scared. That didn't mean she had to stay still. Her fist clenched. Fine then. If Grom wanted to suffocate her with doubt, she'd burn a hole through it. Magic surged, heat building in her palm. She shaped the spell with instinct more than thought. The spell circle flared, not its usual clean purple, this was wildfire, raw and hungry. Flames roared outward in a furious spiral, carving through the black fog. Heat exploded across the arena as the air boomed, the shadows ripping apart like paper caught in a furnace. Fire raced along the smoke, devouring it in violent, golden tongues. Shadows screamed, tearing away as the blaze flooded the arena with violent, brilliant light. For one heartbeat, the entire world was pure orange and gold, sparks scattering like stars bursting free of a night sky. Then the smoke shattered, the arena came back into view, the world came back into view. Luz stumbled forward, eyes wide, then grinned like sunshine breaking storm clouds. Amity. Amity exhaled slowly, steam still curling from her fingers. Her heart hammered, her legs still felt shaky. But she was here, standing, choosing to stand. The fear lingered in her chest like a bruise, the whispers weren't gone, they just didn't get to steer anymore. She swallowed, forcing her breathing steady. Grom adapts, it learns, it pushes, that meant this wasn't the end, it would keep digging, it would go deeper. And they needed to end it before it did. She glanced at Luz beside her. Then toward the darkness already starting to swirl again. We're doing it, she murmured, half to herself. We're actually making this work. But it wouldn't last. Not like this. Her jaw tightened. Luz, Amity said, finally looking at her. It's his turn. Luz blinked, but then nodded, because she understood. Amity lifted her head toward the arena entrance as the shadows began to gather again. Naruto, she whispered under her breath. At the entrance, Naruto stepped forward slowly, shadows curling and writhing around him. The gym went silent, whispers threading through the crowd like static. From the stage, Gus's voice cut through, lively and teasing, narrating the questions buzzing in everyone's minds. What's going on here, folks? Why are these three, Luz, Amity, and Naruto, facing Grom together? How could this even work? King's voice followed, nervous but earnest. Why yeah, and who even thought this was a good idea? I mean, 3 students taking on Grom at once? Naruto didn't answer, he stopped at the weapon walls, hands hovering, commanding the arsenal without touching. Slowly, each sword, staff, and blade spiraled into his palms, absorbed into a single slot on his seal. Beneath the fabric of his tuxedo, the slot pulsed with restrained energy, glowing bright. He exhaled sharply and stepped forward. The motion seemed small, but the gym floor groaned as cracks spiderwebbed beneath him. Wood splintered as if it were paper, with a glance at Luz and Amity, he launched himself toward them. Seems we're still good for now, I'll handle this next one, he muttered. Luz and Amity nodded, silent but resolute. The smoke thickened, compressing into shapes Naruto recognized instantly, villagers from Konoha, the same who had rejected him years ago. He rolled his eyes, this curse is going to piss me off more than scare me. The smoke multiplied, condensing into a small army of ghostly villagers. Naruto didn't flinch. The weapons from his seal merged into a single massive cleaver, wider and taller than him, yet perfectly balanced on his shoulder. The first villagers fell quickly, a downward slash here. A sweeping strike there, smoke dissolving into nothingness. The next wave lunged, Naruto's tails extended, spinning around attackers, merging them into a single devastating sword plunge. A more skilled villager approached. Naruto ducked a high kick, swept its legs, and plunged his blade into both foe and floor. Two others flailed wildly. He spun into a handstand atop his cleaver, kicked them into the air, then launched into a flying kick, flattening a small cluster in one fluid motion. He blinked, that was it. The villagers, faint echoes of his memories, had limited power. But the smoke condensed again, forming a singular, terrifying figure, Orochimaru. Black hair, pale skin, serpentine eyes. Calm, predatory, utterly lethal. The aura of a man who had killed his teacher, replicated, from what Naruto could tell, flawlessly. Naruto's jaw tightened, dangerous, but impressive. Especially since he only knew Orochimaru from pictures, and stories from Jiraiya. A low growl rose from his chest. He rushed forward, swinging downward at the shadow's chest. Orochimaru dodged, countering with 3 strikes, hands like sharpened daggers. Naruto ducked the first, one tail blocked the second, and he kicked away the third. Midair, he spun, kicking into an attacking limb, only to be slammed with 3 brutal kicks to his chest, sending him rolling. Naruto steadied himself. Pale, whip-like arms of Grom's shadow lashed from below. He barely blocked them with his cleaver, before throwing it at Orochimaru, who dodged. Naruto vanished, reappearing beside it, launching 4 rapid slashes, 2 lateral, 2 forming an X. Each was dodged. 2 strikes came for his head, tails from the ground intercepted. And a kick aimed at his temple. Naruto ducked. The blonde spun into a kick from the right, it was blocked. So he spun in the opposite direction, morphing his arm into a half-fox, half-human claw, slashing at Orochimaru's side. The shadow leapt back, then rushed in again. Naruto met it head-on, tails swirling around the cleaver like living armor, colliding with the shadow's arms. Already annoying. Before he could react, acid spat from the shadow, hitting his eyes. Pain flared, he lurched back, darkness swallowed the gym. When he opened his eyes again, everything was black. Naruto tried to breathe. Darkness swallowed everything, no sky, no ground. No sound but his own heartbeat pounding in his ears. He shifted his stance, blade raised, body tense. No attacks came, no movement, just that heavy, suffocating void. This isn't right. The silence didn't feel like mercy, it felt like a setup. He didn't want to think about what kind. A minute dragged by, slow and cruel, until footsteps finally echoed through the dark. Familiar, sharp heel clicks. A lazy swagger she only pretended she didn't have. Ida stepped into view, the only visible thing in the sea of blackness. Same suit, same smug eyebrow cocked at him. "Well, this is new," she said. Darkness explosion, then nothing. Figured I should check on my kids before something ate them. Naruto blinked. "You came down here?" Yeah, she gestured around. "Someone's gotta make sure this plan doesn't go up in flames. Where are the other 2 anyway?" Naruto kept his guard up, blade steady. "I don't know, everything went dark before I could." The world erupted around them. Fire roared, lightning snapped, ice speared down like rain, vines whipped out of the void, lashing like living snakes. Spells came from everywhere at once, no caster, no direction, just pure destruction closing in on them. Naruto reacted on instinct, tails burst from his back, slamming into the ground and ripping up into a massive living shield that wrapped around them. He deflected fire back into the dark, blocked lightning, let ice shatter uselessly against chakra-woven fur. Ida hunkered close behind him, covering her head. "Okay, that's bad, this is bad." Naruto grit his teeth and held, refusing to let anything through. Eventually, the barrage faded, silence crept back in, the darkness pulsed. Naruto lowered his guard slightly. "I think that's it, we need to move Ida. If we don't, I don't know what it's gonna throw at us and He turned, and his world broke. Ida stood where she had been, or what was left of her. Her body was torn apart by every element that had rained down on them. Parts burned, parts frozen, vines pierced through flesh and bone. Chunks missing from her chest, blood pooling beneath her feet. Her face, empty, lifeless. Naruto's breath vanished, his heart stopped. His mind refused to accept what his eyes showed him. "I blocked it," he whispered. "I blocked it, I know I blocked it." He didn't finish the thought. He ran. He caught her before she collapsed, hands trembling violently as he pulled her into his arms. "Ida," his voice cracked. "Ida, hey, come on, say something. Please." "Nothing." "Ida, can you hear me, please answer. Please don't do this. Don't." His eyes burned, tears blurred everything. "Mom." Silence. Footsteps echoed again, smaller, weaker. Naruto turned, chest clenched so tight it hurt to breathe. "King." The little demon shuffled out of the dark. Relief hit Naruto for half a second, but worry was already too deep. "Naruto, there you are," King said softly, voice shaking. "When Ida went looking for you, I didn't know what to do." Naruto couldn't hear the rest. He dropped his gaze back to Ida in panic. "She's still alive, she has to be. We just need magic. Healing. Something. We just have to." He looked back at King. And pain detonated in his chest. King collapsed, unexpected. Naruto froze. Then the world kept going. Willow appeared, screaming, her own magic tearing through her body. Gus followed, trapped in endless illusions, crying for help that never came. Hooty ripped from his door, screeching until his voice broke. Each vision stabbed deeper. Then Amity. Collapsed, drained, magic gone, eyes empty, a husk. Then Luz. Glyphs burned across her skin like parasites, eating, consuming, destroying her from the inside out as she screamed and screamed until darkness swallowed it all again. Naruto dropped. He couldn't stand, he couldn't think, he could barely exist. Then the voice came. His voice. Cold, sharp, cruel. "It's your fault." Naruto's breath hitched. "You weren't strong enough. Weren't fast enough. You failed them." He shook. "You're weak. Worthless. A demon fox pretending to be human." Tears slid down his face. "You didn't deserve them." The voice whispered closer. "You didn't deserve Jiraiya." Silence fell. "Then, you don't deserve anything." Naruto hit his knees hard. After a moment, the voice, his own voice, finally went quiet, but the silence wasn't mercy. It sank inside instead, echoing through him until there was nothing but the ache it left behind. Everyone was gone. Because of him. Tears slid down his cheeks without resistance. He didn't wipe them, didn't even move. They didn't sting, didn't burn, didn't feel real. His body felt hollow enough that even crying barely counted as existing. Ida. King. Willow, Gus, even Hooty. Amity, Luz. All gone. In the darkness he couldn't sense anything. No warmth. No spark of life. No movement. Just the crushing, suffocating certainty pressing against his ribs. He swallowed and forced out one brittle sound. "I failed." It barely echoed. He waited to hear something. Anything. But there was only more dark. So he tried again. "I broke my promise." His voice cracked. A terrible guard, a terrible son. He squeezed his eyes shut. A heartless brother. An unkind friend. The words trembled, wobbling between anger and grief, then fell into something softer, something worse. A useless student, who couldn't even keep it together. His breath left him in a shaky exhale. His arms gave out, body dropping fully now, slumped forward. He didn't move. Didn't blink. Didn't fight. He just knelt there, trembling quietly while tears pooled on the unseen floor. Minutes passed. And then, somewhere in the silence, Naruto? He froze. Lose? He didn't react. Couldn't trust it wasn't his own mind. Her voice trembled with frantic worry. Naruto, where are you? You didn't come out, so we came in here to find you. A second voice followed. Steady, controlled, but shaking beneath it. We're right here. We're not leaving you. Amity. No, he stayed still, didn't move, didn't believe it. He couldn't, hope hurt more than anything Grom could show him. A warm light pulsed into the dark, not bright. Not blinding. Just, human. The air shifted. Something real brushed his shoulder. Naruto, Luz breathed, closer now, softer. Hey. Look at me. He didn't. He couldn't. Amity knelt on the other side, voice low and careful, like she was handling something fragile. You didn't lose us, this is Grom talking, not reality, not you. His jaw tightened. That was stupid, of course they'd say that. Of course they'd try to make it better. That's what they did, he didn't deserve that, but Luz didn't rush him. She didn't cheerfully pretend this wasn't horrible. She didn't joke. She just stayed. We saw what it showed you, she whispered. We saw what you were scared of. Amity's hand hesitated, then rested against his arm. Warm. Real. And none of that makes you a failure, she said, voice firm now, like she refused to let this thing define him. You care. That's why it hurts. That doesn't make you weak. He squeezed his eyes tighter. But their voices didn't fade. Little by little, the dark trembled. Not gone. But shaking. His breath hitched, then finally, he looked up. The darkness split. They were standing there. Luz smiled at him like she wasn't going anywhere. Amity, steady, protective, refusing to let anything take him. Something in his chest snapped loose. Relief hit like a wave. You're still here. Of course we are, Luz laughed softly, then without hesitation, she grabbed him and pulled him close. Amity followed, cheeks pink but fierce as she wrapped her arms around him too. Warm, real, grounding, the darkness shattered. Light crashed back in, with the roar of the crowd, the arena, the air, the gym, life, Ida in the stands leaning forward in panic. King and Gus still at the stage, mid-sentence. Willow cheering, tense but hopeful. Everyone. Still there. Breathing in a shaky breath, Naruto straightened, hand pressing to his chest. Relief washed through him. And then anger followed right behind it, sharp and burning. That thing made him believe it. That thing made him give up. His fists clenched. Luz tightened her grip just a little. We're right here, Naruto, okay? You don't have to do any of this alone. Amity nodded, eyes soft but burning determined. We're standing with you, remember the plan. His chest loosened. He swallowed, wiped his tears with the back of his hand, and nodded. Yeah. He turned back to them, steadier. Seems like our little plan worked, with a few hiccups. Amity crossed her arms quickly, scowling at the idea of them ever trying solo again. Luz gave a sheepish grin. But we confirmed something, Naruto continued. It expects one-on-one. It likes isolating people, so we don't give it that, we overwhelm it. But we stay together, keep each other grounded, we stop taking time to test it. Luz and Amity nodded. Naruto paused, glancing toward King and Gus who were still breathlessly watching from the main stage. Ichiwai, he shouted. Gus, King, get some music going. Both boys jolted. Music, Gus yelped, half choking into the mic. You mean like right now? King squinted suspiciously. Are you trying to court the monster, because if so I'm gonna need snacks for this. Naruto just grinned. You can't dance without music. Silence, then Luz blinked, then Amity blinked. Then they both spoke at once. What? Dance, Amity sputtered, whipping toward him, scandalized. Naruto, this isn't the time to be ridiculous. Luz flailed her arms. Yeah, giant nightmare demon thing, we got to beat it, who are you even planning to dance with? Naruto shrugged like this was perfectly reasonable. You too obviously. Besides, big scary drama monster or not, this is a battle, a show that happens every year. He snapped his fingers lightly, so instead let's make it less familiar, it is the final Grom fight after all. Amity's eye twitched. Dancing is not a battle strategy. Actually, Luz muttered, frowning thoughtfully, technically in like 3 movies I've seen it totally is, Luz, Amity groaned. Naruto continued unfazed. We've got our plan, so, we can also give the crowd a better show. Something bold, something stupidly confident, we change the tone. If we're not scared, if we're literally dancing in its face, Grom loses control of the mood. Luz's eyes slowly widened, we mean the monster. Naruto snapped finger guns at her, exactly. Amity opened her mouth to argue, and stopped. Because as insane as it sounded, it made sense. She bit her lip, brows furrowing, but, how, would we all even dance together? While fighting Grom? That seems impractical. Naruto shook his head. Practicality is too close to tradition, which we all agreed was stupid when we made this plan. We're doing better than that. He softened just slightly. We're doing this together. So I'm sure we can figure it out. We just need to move like a team, like a wave, every part understanding the other, so we can harmonize together. Luz smiled slowly, that's actually kinda beautiful. Amity still hesitated, cheeks warming. But what if we mess it up? Amity, Naruto said gently. When have we ever fought well when we weren't being total disasters first? She paused. Then sighed. Fair point. From above. Music finally blasted through the arena, dramatic, upbeat, loud. Luz jumped lightly at the sudden sound. Oh. Okay, this is happening. Naruto relaxed into a grin and crossed his arms, extending a hand to each of them. For things like this, he said quietly, warm and steady, you don't overthink it. He held their gaze. You just let it flow. Luz stared a second longer, then laughed breathlessly and grabbed his hand, excitement lighting her face. Amity glanced at Luz. Then at Naruto. Then at the dark swirling Grom beyond them. She inhaled slowly. Then, she took his other hand. Naruto tightened his hands, firm enough to keep Amity and Luz close while the rhythm settled into their bodies. I honestly thought it'd take more convincing, he joked under his breath. Neither girl had the air to respond, too tense, too focused, because the shadows were already moving. Grom was rebuilding itself. The smoke swelled and churned, then condensed into a familiar human silhouette. A soft face, gentle eyes, a tired smile, Camila Nocita. Its voice came out warm, motherly, wrong. Luz stiffened, fingers tightening around Naruto's hand with sharp determination, jaw clenched, but she didn't break. Grom shifted again. This time it shrank and bent backward into a monstrous belly-crawling shape, scales sliding into reality as it whispered in Amity's own voice, too quiet. Too close to her ear. Telling her she'd still ruin everything, that she'd never be anything without her mask, that she'd never truly be wanted unless she behaved. Amity's eyes sharpened, her grip steadied, no hesitation. Then Grom lunged to try again. It twisted one more time and rose tall, pale face stretching into something serpentine and laughing. The sickly grin of Orochimaru split across its too wide mouth. Naruto blinked, yawned, rolled his neck with a bored crack. Grom's tricks died there. The shape-shifting broke completely as its chest inflated, not a stolen voice now, not a mask or an illusion, but a raw, feral sound that echoed like thunder shaking glass. A guttural, primal roar burst from its core as its body shredded back into shadowy sludge. It reformed into something massive, not a person this time, a creature. The beast towered over them, nearly a quarter of the gym's length and half a house tall, smoke bleeding from its body as its shape churned, refusing to stay fixed. Its jaw stretched like an alligator's, huge teeth dripping with shadow, limbs warping constantly, never truly solid yet somehow crushingly heavy. Naruto's tails flared behind him. Ready? He looked to the girls one last time, both nodded. He pulled his arms apart, their linked hands came free from his, only to find each other, fingers interlocking. Naruto stepped back and dipped in a playful, theatrical bow before flashing a grin. Showtime. Luz smiled first and spun Amity forward, taking the lead. Shockingly, Amity adapted almost instantly, breath sinking to the rhythm, focus sharpening, body flowing along with Luz. Grom didn't wait. Smoke surged before them, compressing, building pressure until it fired. Bullets of shadow exploded toward them, dozens, fast, jagged, lethal. Luz and Amity didn't stop. The bullets did. Naruto crashed down in front of them, tails flaring wide in a spinning, fiery bloom that whirled around like a flaming shield, slashing through every streak of shadow. Seeing this, Grom snarled, forcing the projectiles to bend and curve to slip past him, but Naruto simply moved with the music, twirling around the girls in sweeping spins, his tail slicing shadow apart in dizzying arcs. Then he decided that blocking wasn't dramatic enough. Two swirling orbs of fire formed in his palms. As he completed one last rotation, he planted himself in front of Luz and Amity, merged the flames into a single burning arrow, and launched it. The projectile screamed through the air, slamming into Grom's massive body and exploding in brilliant, gold-orange light. The gym erupted in heat and color as shadow peeled back in layers. The crowd gasped. Half terrified. Half enthralled. Grom staggered, stunned, but not beaten. Naruto barely had a second to study it before Luz and Amity grabbed him again and yanked him back into motion. Amity's eyes flicked upward, Luz smirked, Naruto understood. He grabbed Amity's waist and launched her skyward. She soared above the arena, catching her balance atop an abomination hand she summoned midair, stabilizing like a platform beneath her boots. The crowd roared. Meanwhile Naruto swept Luz back into dance, this time he led. Grom regained its footing and roared, slamming a massive arm forward to crush them, but Naruto twisted away effortlessly, spinning Luz out of the strike, tails bursting in defensive flares of heat. Grom's maw tore open and more arms lunged out, grotesque and snapping. Naruto didn't even look. He guided Luz through each dodge, every spin, every step syncing with incoming attacks, weaving around death like it was of no consequence. Luz couldn't look away from him, trusting completely. They slid right to where Naruto's sword was buried in the ground. In one smooth flourish, he grabbed it, sliced through the last lunging strike, then positioned Luz safely behind him. Before Grom surged forward again, a blazing pink light ignited above. Amity. Floating high above the arena, she carved a massive spell circle into existence. It pulsed once, then detonated into life. Abomination hands rained from the ceiling like a storm. They crashed into Grom, slapping, punching, dragging, battering it relentlessly. The beast howled as strike after strike smothered its body, pinning it down, overwhelming it. Naruto dove back into motion, still guiding Luz through the chaos as Amity's assault kept the monster at bay. When the barrage finally paused, Luz spun away from him, glyphs already fanned between her fingers, eyes blazing with wild excitement. She launched forward. Naruto caught Amity as she dropped down, their steps sinking instantly as they resumed moving toward Grom. This time Luz defended, slamming glyphs into the ground and conjuring a spreading forest of ice, forming a towering crystalline wall between Grom and everyone else. Grom went feral. It clawed at the barrier, raked, bit, screamed. Nothing broke through. The crowd could actually cheer now, fear melting into awe as the three fought like something choreographed rather than survived. Naruto and Amity stopped before the wall. They split apart, hands still joined, smiling at each other like this wasn't absolutely insane. Then Naruto stepped forward again, sword raised, but Luz twirled in and slapped plant glyphs along the blade with a mischievous grin before darting back. Amity followed, a large abomination spell circle flaring beneath Naruto. Purple goop surged upward, coating the sword in thick, living mass. Both girls returned to his sides, hands gripping his shoulders. Trust, support, unity. Naruto smirked and leveled the weapon, fire beginning to roar inside his palms. Grom shattered the ice. It lunged, rage, fear, hate, all boiling together. At the last second, Naruto unleashed everything. Flames detonated from his hands like a rocket booster, launching the sword with deafening force. It flew like a blazing meteor straight into Grom's open maw, and exploded. Roots burst outward from the inside, abomination mass surged with it, glyph light burned through shadow. Grom didn't just fall, it unraveled. Its body collapsed inward as roots tore through its form, binding and strangling shadow as it shrieked silently. The living mass slammed into the arena floor and compressed, harder, tighter, smaller, until all that remained stood gently before them. A massive, perfect cherry blossom tree. Its petals glowed softly, its roots anchored deep into the arena stone, every drifting petal shimmered like calm after a storm. And the fight was over. Naruto took a breath and let himself appreciate what they'd made together. The tree rose like a monument in the center of the arena, petals slowly drifting down in lazy spirals. Soft pink light pulsed from its trunk, warm and gentle, nothing like the raging fear that had once stood there moments ago. Naruto couldn't help but smile. Yeah, this was nice, peaceful, beautiful even. Then something shifted. Out of the tree's shadow, something wet and slithering scraped across the floor. Naruto's ears twitched before he saw it. A dark smear of shadow goop dragged itself free from the roots, inching desperately toward the deeper darkness along the gym wall, trying to melt back into the safety of the shadows. Prometheus wasn't completely finished. Naruto frowned. Of course it wouldn't be that easy. He rolled his shoulders, quietly annoyed at the dramatic timing, then sighed. Right, the plan, he muttered. Before Luz or Amity could react, Naruto's body warped forward. Fur burst over his skin in a sweeping rush, tails flaring as his muzzle snapped open. In one quick, brutal motion, he lunged and chomped down on the escaping mass, crushing the shadow into crackling embers of fear and dissolving darkness. It sizzled away on his tongue. Naruto gagged. He dropped back onto his feet as the fur retracted, face scrunching in disgust as he wiped his mouth with his sleeve. Ugh, okay, that is definitely never becoming a snack option, he said loudly, sticking his tongue out. Tastes like rotten swamp water and melted shoe. Before anyone could laugh, the gym shifted again. The blossoms in the tree trembled, then began to fall, petals drifted down like soft snowflakes, slow, glowing, impossibly gentle. One landed lightly on Luz's shoulder. Another brushed into Amity's hair. A third fell onto Naruto's head. Light shimmered. Around Luz's head, blooming from the petals, a delicate pink flower tiara formed, wrapping softly behind her ear before settling like a crown. Amity's followed, beautiful and refined, a perfectly shaped floral circlet that somehow suited her completely. Naruto blinked as his own petal pulsed and unfolded into a messy but undeniably regal flower crown resting crookedly in his hair. He froze for half a second. Then Luz launched. She slammed into him like a cannonball of joy, both arms locking around him and nearly tackling him backwards. "Naruto, we did it. We actually did it," she cheered, practically vibrating against him. "We beat Grom, and planted a magical tree." He laughed, breath caught for a second as he steadied them both. "Yeah, don't break me, geez. I still need my ribs." Amity approached a bit slower, but the smile on her face was bright and real, no mask, no hesitation. Relief softened her posture, and something warm settled in her eyes as she looked between him and Luz. "You were incredible out there," she admitted, voice steady but a little breathless. "Both of you. And, seriously, how are you that good at dancing? That isn't normal." Naruto rubbed the back of his neck, grin turning sheepish. "Picked it up." He glanced back toward the tree again. For a moment, everything quieted. Something soft tugged at his chest as he stared up into the softly glowing blossoms. Victory should have felt loud, explosive, final. Instead, it felt calm. Before silence could stretch too long, the gym erupted. Cheers exploded from every gym. Students laughed, screamed, clapped, stomped. Magic lights burst into little firework pops. Gus' voice boomed through the mic again, practically cracking with excitement, and they did it. The fear-eating nightmare monster is defeated, and the crowd goes wild. King shouted into the mic right beside him, "All hail the Grom Queens." And Naruto, Grom King of flaming dramatic finishes. Naruto's eye twitched. Up in the stands, he spotted Ida leaning against the railing, arms crossed with a smug smirk plastered on her face. She mouthed something at him. "You're never living this down." He groaned internally. Great. This was gonna follow him forever. The three of them were swarmed with applause and whistles as lights circled the gym. Gus hyped the crowd. King yelled about emotional triumph. Somewhere in the background, music kicked back up just enough to celebrate. Luz still hadn't let go. Amity stood beside them, closer than usual, but comfortable, warm, trusting. Naruto let the noise fade out of focus for a second. He looked at Luz's smile, then at Amity's calm, glowing face. Then back at the tree. Yeah. Feelings, complications, crushes, whatever this was turning into. He wasn't stupid, this wasn't going to stay simple forever. Someone was going to want answers, something was going to change eventually. But did he need to rush it? Did he really need some big, corny confession moment? Some dramatic spotlight reveal? No. He didn't want to force it. He didn't have to carry everything on his own. He didn't have to have the perfect plan. He didn't need to push himself forward like he usually did. He had friends here. Family. People who'd fight beside him, and dance with him, apparently. He could take his time. See what happened. Let things just be. Naruto breathed out, shoulders finally relaxing. A small, honest smile tugged at his face. Yeah, for now, he'd let it flow. That's it for today. I hoped you liked the video. Please like and subscribe, and comment ideas if you can, and maybe you could share this with your friends, because you never know, they might like what ifs too. So without further ado, All Kage, out.